What is a winning strategy? Why is it that in life and business, some people take a dive, others merely survive, and yet others thrive? What are the core characteristics that all great achievers have in common? Well, as an economist and as a sociologist, I've been studying these questions for over 25 years. And I've had an interesting vantage point as I've consulted on hundreds of disasters. Cases like the World Trade Center, Hurricane Katrina, the BP oil spill, and tragedies like O.J. Simpson and John Benet Ramsey. Now, the media has given me some great nicknames. The Wall Street Journal, I'm Dr. Disaster. A nice guy like me. The LA Times, I'm the master of disaster. And in People magazine, they call me the Ghostbuster. Although I have never seen a ghost, and I don't want to see a ghost. What the media doesn't get is that I'm really not that interested in disasters. I'm interested in recovery. In fact, I'm fascinated by those concepts and principles that bring growth and authentic resilience. Now, the first thing you got to know about working on a crisis is that you cannot fix anything you don't understand. You can't do it. There's got to be a solid assessment. And over the years, an assessment tool has evolved, and I use it, and I love it because it's complete, it's balanced, and it's simple. In fact, I can sum it up in 4 little words: me, we, do, be. Me is our mindset. It's everything we think intellectually, believe philosophically, and feel spiritually. That's me. We is our connection with other people. It's our social capital. It's our relationships with others. Do is productivity. Now, in economics, we call productivity land, labor, and capital. But here, I think we're better off calling it things like taking care of our health, taking care of our money, taking care of our homes and our businesses, our products and services. That's do. And then be is about our game plan going forward and a legacy. I learned a long time ago that behind the headlines are real people. Let's take a look at that. In sociology, there's a term we call baseline. It describes your normal average condition. And then along comes a crisis. It could be a big one or a little one. And in the aftermath, a lot of people die. They never recover back to the baseline. And yet, others work their way back to the baseline and they survive. That's admirable. However, there is a segment of society who will not only take on their challenges and beat them, but they will bounce back bigger and better than they were before. And they thrive. I don't want to talk about disasters. Can we talk about thriving? My dad said, if you want to be successful, you got to do what successful people do. And here I have this unique privilege of being with the thrivers behind the biggest headlines around the world. And here's what I learned. First of all, it starts with me, we, do, be. It starts with the me cornerstone and a particular way of thinking. Thrivers are adaptive. They're open to new ways of thinking. And thrivers are also practical. They let go of the stuff we can't control, and they focus in on the stuff we do control. What do we really control? We can't control the past. We can't control the weather. What we can really control are things like, what time am I going to get up? What foods am I going to put in my mouth? What am I going to read? What am I going to say? In other words, thrivers have a paced day-to-day effort of little rituals and routines. And while they're tiny, they add up to something big. And we call those tiny behaviors rich habits. When my research team made the connection between rich habits and thriving, we wanted to learn more. And we designed a sociological study where we surveyed over 5,000 people in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Australia. And we statistically correlated various rich habits with various measures of success. And here are some highlights. In the me cornerstone, those turned out to be habits like reading, meditation, prayer, and nature walks. In fact, avid readers dominated in all statistical measures of success. They earned more money, they were better educated, they accumulated more wealth, and they were happier. And those who turn off what I call the digital drugs and take quiet, reflective time on a daily basis are 92% more likely to earn an advanced college degree. Now, the we cornerstone, that's relationships. That turned out to be habits like smiling more, sending thank you cards, going out of our way to being a little kinder to other people. One statistic really popped out in terms of relationships and family. Those who have regular dinner together as a family are 41% more likely to be happy and 43% more likely to earn over $100,000 a year. Now, the do cornerstones are things like taking care of our health and exercising, budgeting, saving. All of those popped up in our survey. And a few things popped up as well. Again, those who exercise, even for 15 minutes a day, dominate statistically in every single measure of success. And those who make their beds in the morning are 207% more likely to become millionaires. I got my son, Drake, to make his bed for 3 days with that statistic. I think it's because it puts your mind into a productive mindset. However, this survey put money into perspective. Money does statistically correlate with happiness, but only for those who are struggling to pay their basic bills at about $25,000 a year. However, after that amount, you are statistically just about as likely to be as happy as a billionaire if you have enough to pay your basic bills. B is our game plan to move forward and create some kind of legacy, something bigger than ourselves. Those who maintain a calendar and a to-do list are 289% more likely to become millionaires. And speaking of legacy, those who maintain their family histories and their family legacies are up to 300% more likely to be very happy. Well, we also looked at the lives of history's great achievers, and inevitably, without exception, we found this distinct pattern of signature-rich habits. In the me cornerstone is thinking. Albert Einstein had a particular signature-rich habit. He would not go into his room or his apartment to think for an hour or two or a day or two, but for a week or two at a time. John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, his thing was the we cornerstone and relationships and playing as a team spirit. His rich habit was he would bench the star player if they were putting their personal glory ahead of the good of the team. Mother Teresa personified the do cornerstone. She had her faith, but she put it into action. Walt Disney had a vision. I had the privilege of once going into his office, but it was his office before he made it big. And he had literally painted his vision on the office wall. And his rich habit was to share his vision with everyone he met. Walt Disney was not rejected by one or two investors. He was rejected by hundreds of investors, but he persisted with that rich habit. He shared his vision with everyone until it became a reality. And I cannot help but mention Dr. Stephen R. Covey, for which this beautiful building is dedicated. Dr. Covey was a mentor to me. He endorsed my first book. And his son Stephen told me that his rich habit was to get up early in the morning to exercise his mind, body, and soul. We do not choose our futures. We choose our habits, and those habits determine our future. Now, let me tell you about probably one of my biggest, most important cases, but you will never read about this one in People magazine. On the weekends, I volunteer at a homeless shelter near where I live in Laguna Beach, California. Danny was in my class. Danny had a good life, but he let in one poor habit, and it rippled out, and it wrecked his life. Well, when I first met Danny, I gave him a coin like this. On there are 4 words, and you know what they are. Me, we, do, be. I challenged Danny to assess his me, we, do, be habits. And he did. And he came back with this long list of 8 or 10 new, huge habits. I've met these thrivers everywhere from Chernobyl to Hiroshima. That's not how they do it. They take it slow, one tiny step at a time. That's what really works. And so I said, Danny, your only commitment was hold on to that coin and do 1 push-up a day. That was it. Well, Danny kept his commitment. Every time I saw him, he had his coin. And he did his 1 push-up a day. Even if he was tired or in a bad mood, he did his 1 push-up a day. But it turned into 10, 20, 50 push-ups. And then Danny started going to the library and checking out books and reading them. And then Danny started going down to the beach to meditate. And then Danny wrote down his goals for the future. I will never forget the day when I went to the homeless shelter on Pacific Coast Highway. And I walked in and I saw Danny. And Danny looked kind of sad. And I went up to him and I said, Danny, what's up? He said, he called me Dr. Bell. I said, call me Randy. He said, Dr. Bell, I got to move out. And I'm sad because I'm going to miss you. And I'm going to miss the staff. In our class, we talked about rich habits. And I made it a rich habit to hand out my resume to 3 people a day, no matter what. And I handed out those resumes week after week after week. It turned into months, and I failed. But I finally got a job. And then I made it a habit to show up 5 minutes early. And in class, we talked about saving money. And he said, Dr. Bell, I've been saving 80% of what I've earned. And in class, we talked about staying away from the toxic people and the frauds. And I reconnected with my good friends. And I reconnected with my family. And I've got an apartment, and I'm moving out. Wow. Well, this inspired me. It had been a while since I had adopted a new rich habit. And it's now been 3 months since I've had a diet soda. To sum it up, rich habits, rich life. If you hit a crisis in life or in business, and let's be honest, we all hit a crisis. You've taken a dive and you want to survive. Or if you're just surviving and you want to thrive, assess your me, we, do, be habits and identify the one weakest area. And then adopt that one rich habit and let it ripple out. We call it the rich habit ripple. It worked for Danny. It worked for me. It's worked for students, parents, teachers, leaders, lots of millionaires, and even a couple billionaires. It will work for you. Thank you.